Rigging pipes and conduits are a big part of any boat DIY restoration project or build. Today's episode is all about it. Now, if you've been following the channel, last week we threw down a couple sheets of Coosa board, but we had to punch some holes through those Coosa board panels. We had to do it accurately, so we built some templates out of the 1/2-inch dowel board and hot glued those on. A lot of people are like, well, what size pipe do you prefer? How do you prep it? That's what we're going to be covering today. First things first, when they ship this stuff, they can have letters printed on it, or it could have dirt, grit, grime, who knows what. And we would like to get that off of there first. So I'm going to use a little bit of acetone in our Zep sprayer. And you can see the acetone will actually kind of melt and dissolve the lettering, and it'll clean any oil residue that may be on the PVC pipe. That's 40 grit on a Hutchins DA. Typically a good thorough sanding. We want to knock all the gloss or shine off of there. You can see we've got some nice texture. You can theoretically just take a disc. It's just going to take you a lot longer. The tolerances are pretty tight around the hole that we drilled in the actual PVC pipe, but I got it oriented in such a way that I'm pretty happy with it. Now, what I've found that's worked for me over the years is getting it in position, and then I'm going to very carefully remove this panel. I'm going to mark the orientation of this fitting. Let's say we got a mark right there in the middle, and then we're going to line it up with the top of the PVC so that we know exactly how far down it goes, and then exactly where it is as far as keying it into place. Now, it may seem pretty obvious once you see that, but if you don't do it, it's very easy to get one of those fittings canted or tilted, and then things don't line back up. Now's a good time also to welcome everybody to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Joe Buskins. I'm a second-generation professional boat builder, a 100-ton licensed captain. This is our family's boat shop, and that is our custom-built 29-footer that we built here in our family's boat shop for our charter operation. So welcome, everyone. So, okay, here we go again. Same deal. I'm pretty happy with the positioning of this panel. Now, generally, when we're doing stuff like this as far as rigging panels, like when we did our 29, I did 2 4-inch pipes running 4.5. Now, on this boat, we only have a single. This is a much smaller boat. This is actually bigger than what the original boat had anyway, so we're gaining there. You can again see I've got this propped up, everything stuck in place. Let's go do the same deal. Let's mark an orientation and a placement. Now, I've spent a little bit of time sanding on these fittings where they're going to come through, and we're going to be fiberglassing. Now, I just wanted to clarify something. I'd mentioned sanding earlier, but unless you're going to be fiberglassing around it or over it, there's no real need to do that. So just for clarity's sake, but I did want to back up and just mention briefly, talking about hoses and pipes and conduits underneath the floor. Now, this particular boat, the way we're going to be doing this bulkhead here is going to come all the way to the top. We're going to be building a different fuel tank, and there won't be any water in this compartment. Basically, we're doing a watertight bulkhead in front of it. The fittings are going to be placed back, and then there's going to be a lower bulkhead behind it to hold it in place. But typically, you would have some kind of a PVC pipe or runner under the floor. Our 29, for example, has a drop floor in the bow storage, and it has to run to the stern. And so we gotta have some way for that to make it from the bow to the stern. And most of you folks are not gonna be building and designing a boat from scratch like we did our 29. So probably the best thing to do is just look at the way they had it from the factory and replicate that, or if you see an area for improvement, you certainly could do that. Sometimes, like say for example, you go from a 3-inch diameter pipe to maybe a 4-inch diameter pipe to allow for a little more room for rigging. Again, we've done some sanding and grinding. This fitting is going to come up through the floor. Usually pretty generous with the glue application in there. And we're going to put that right on the mark, front to back and in line there. Make sure, clean up and tool that a little bit. I would love to know what y'all's favorite kind of content is, or maybe if you have a favorite video that we've done in the past, or you'd like to see more gel coat work, or more epoxy, or more tutorials, or more project boats. We're certainly always reading the comments, watching, listening. Plenty on there. At least that's the way my dad taught me. He's like, don't be skimpy with it. It's relatively cheap. And my dad was not only a boat builder, but he built the house that I grew up in, and remodeled houses and built things, and he was quite the guy when it came to building and repairing. Same deal. I'm going to run right up to that little line. Seems like there were a lot of guys of my dad's generation that could build and repair and do about anything. Almost superhuman in what they could do. Didn't seem to be afraid. Guess they grew up in a time when they had to do that. All right, we got the next phase rolling. A little bit of the high strength vinyl ester structural repair putty. This is from Fiberglass Warehouse. If you've been following the channel, you know who they are. If you need some of this stuff, be sure to give them a call and use your Fish Bump TV discount code to save you some money, and all the other materials that we're using here on the channel. They've got your resins, they've got your glass, they've got your putties, they've got your fillers, they've got you covered. And then we've also got a very nice Amazon store listed below our video's description for all the tools and whatnot that we use. And if you need personal direct contact with me, some consulting, that would be through Patreon, and I'll put that in the comments or just below our video's description for everybody. So that can help y'all out if you need to get in touch with me or need some supplies. Now, that's probably a couple ounces there. I'm gonna go pretty spicy tonight. Tonight, what I'm gonna be doing is using this to kind of stick this in here, and I want it a little faster, a little hotter, and it is relatively cool right now. Just as a reference, we're looking at 62 degrees Fahrenheit or 17.1 degrees Celsius. So to give you a rule of thumb, generally though, when we're working with vinyl esters, I like a little closer to 2%, and you can even go upwards of 2.5% if you need to. In the warmer months, temperatures are high, you're gonna back that down to about 1.5% or so. Highly recommend you getting like a plastic. This is some old signboard, some aluminum or plastic, a non-porous material. I don't prefer and wouldn't recommend cardboard. A lot of people try to use that, but it can pull some of the solvents out of your putties, and it can change the composition of things, and it's just not really recommended. I did use some 40 grit paper, and we came in here where our PVC pipe's gonna go through, and I scratched it up, put a good surface on it, and then I hit it with some acetone and wiped it down. Now I've already done that just to expedite things, but this vinyl ester resin that we used to fiberglass in our stringers, it's been several weeks at this point, and it needs a little bit of sanding and a little bit of acetone. And what I want to do is just use gloved hand here to kind of butter the edges of the Coosa board as we go through. Now we're going to probably scrape and knock some of that off, but I just like to seal, kind of butter that up, put a little bit of material around and have it there, so as we push the part in, we can move it over where it needs to be. All right, I like it. Remember, we got our lines for our reference mark. You can see we're right there on it, and what we're just trying to do tonight is just tack this thing in and get it stuck in there so that we can come back and get some glass on it. If you're wearing gloved hands, you do some sanding to be sure there are no splinters. Fiberglass splinters are no bueno. When I use our little putty blade to come around and get some, this side we can do a lot better job of getting material in there, and I said, even though I may have rubbed some of it off when that pipe comes through, to me, I just feel better about the seal. I'm going to be using this material on these joints instead of PVC glue because there was quite a bit of tolerance there. And we're just going to walk that in there. That should be perfectly fine. We are going to be putting a closed cell foam around this, and I believe we'll also be coming around this joint with some fiberglass at some point. That'll hold it together till we can glass it and foam it. It's all we need. Vinyl ester, pretty amazing stuff. A lot of people don't know the difference and don't understand, but it is almost in every way bonds as well as epoxy does. Significantly stronger than just your regular polyester, which what most boats are built out of, but it's got a little more flex and give to it. So when you're doing restoration repair work like this, vinyl ester is by far my preferred. It's also completely compatible with CSM, which is an advantage, and it's completely compatible with Gelcoat, so you can Gelcoat right over it. Whereas with epoxy, generally a lot of people, myself included, don't feel like it's a good idea to try to put Gelcoat over epoxy, although in some limited applications it can be done. All right, here we go. Vinyl ester laminating resin. Always a good idea to agitate or shake it up a bit before application. I like using these little graduated mixing cups so you can see how much material you got. Let's say we go with about 3 ounces or right at 100 milliliters to start. 1, 2, 3 ounces or so. I want to go with about 2 or 3 cc's because I want this to kick pretty good for me tonight. Generally this stuff will change colors once you've added the activator. Colder weather requires more, hotter weather requires less. You can see it's kind of getting a darker tone. Get a little bit of resin all the way around. Always good though to do plenty of good prep work. Sand your surfaces, wipe them down with acetone. I went ahead and pre-cut some little pieces of glass here. We're going to use one straight edge and one feathered edge so that we don't have a lot of overhang. Go ahead and pre-wet this. Just start at the top, and if you tear the widths approximately right, you'll get very little overhang over the front, and it'll kind of feather up the sides and around the corner, and that is what you want. And again, one of the advantages of vinyl ester is it's very, very strong. It's stronger than polyester, but it's compatible with CSM or chop strand mat, which is what we're applying right now. And CSM is very, very good in these kind of applications where you're trying to tab material in and you need it to kind of melt and be flexible. Epoxy will not melt the binders that are in the CSM, and it just doesn't work well. Work it all the way around. Get to where you can kind of do this by feel, and I'm always going to be tightening it, so I'm kind of like dabbing, and I'm also pulling it around the direction that I traveled initially. My dad was very fortunate. When he was a young man, he built a little wood boat, and fiberglass was just coming out. And I say he was a young man, he was actually in the Air Force at the time, and ordered some fiberglass through Sears and built a little skiff in Tennessee. He was stationed up there in Tennessee. I want to say Murfreesboro, maybe. I believe there's the Air Force. That was before my time. That was when my older brother Mark was a little fella, but it was before my time. Dad ordered some of the first fiberglass anybody had seen or used. All right, so I'm going to try to start down here. You notice I kind of came around this way. I'm going to start at the bottom, kind of tightening. You can see I'm adding these layers, but I'm going in the same direction there. Wanted to at least get this done for y'all tonight so we get a video for this weekend. Like I said, this is our project boat. This is not our daily customer paying or part of our charter business. So we kind of have to work these videos in, try to have an upload for the weekend for everybody. Last video did real well when we were cutting the floor panels. I want to thank y'all again for tuning in and your support of the channel. It means a lot to us. We got multiple layers, overlapping layers, 2 or 3 at a time. You can do 2 or 3 in one pass, especially in cooler weather. Completely fine to do that. That's another thing I kind of like about polyesters and vinyl esters versus epoxies. It seems like it's a little easier to saturate the cloth and get multiple coats on. Sometimes you can even use the brush while you're doing this, kind of tuck it in with the brush. You can see how this CSM is kind of melting from the chemicals. You can almost pull it, stretch it. That's what makes it really good for waterproofing and fiberglassing in fittings. I'm gonna kind of just lay this over and around and let it turn around the corner there. I can assure you that that is not gonna go anywhere. A little bit more there. Hopefully that looks good. You can see here we got multiple layers. You can see there's pretty substantial thickness right there. Maybe the camera will pick that up. We've gone round and round, but we don't have a lot of material to have to sand or clean up, which I think is good. And at this point, I'm pretty happy with how everything looks. And if we need to, sometimes things will shift or move a little bit, but obviously it's always an option to open up the holes in your Coosa panels, and then we could come back with some of the vinyl ester high strength filler. I hope that was informative. I hope it was helpful. I hope y'all enjoyed this episode. If you did, takes a second to hit that little subscribe button, like, share, comment, tell a friend. Captain Joe here, Island Marine Charters. My son Logan working hard behind the scenes. We'll catch you in the next episode.